the freezing wind of an Afghan dawn, a single F-16 stood ready on the tarmac, its metallic skin catching the first glint of the rising sun. Inside the cockpit, Captain Elena Hart took a slow, steady breath. Her fingers hovered over the controls, trembling, not from fear but from the weight of everything that had brought her to this moment. For years she'd been the one overlooked in briefings, the one the old-school colonels called just a pilot. Not a war hero, not a legend, not someone who'd make history. But that was about to change forever. Elena had been the kind of officer who worked in silence. She wasn't loud or brash like the others in her unit. She didn't care about the banter or the politics that ran deep through the Air Force corridors. Her father had taught her that real warriors didn't chase recognition. They earned it through sacrifice. He'd been a pilot himself, one who never made it home from Iraq. Elena had joined the Air Force at 19, not to follow in his footsteps, but to finish the mission he never got to complete. Still, being a woman in a fighter squadron wasn't easy. Every briefing, every evaluation, she could feel eyes questioning her presence, her ability, her courage. To most of them, she wasn't a warrior. She was a symbol of change, a box ticked for progress. That morning's mission was supposed to be routine, a reconnaissance and possible strike on a confirmed insurgent convoy deep in the mountains. But even before she took off, Elena felt something in her chest that told her nothing about today would be routine. The air was different, the silence heavier. She looked once at the photo of her father taped inside the cockpit, his faded uniform, his gentle smile, and whispered quietly, "For you, Dad." Then she pushed the throttle forward, and the jet roared into the rising light. Hours later, the operation took a turn no one had expected. The convoy wasn't just a target. It was bait. Hidden anti-air batteries waited in the valley, and within seconds, missiles filled the sky. The first explosion ripped through the air, taking out one of the lead jets. Radio chatter erupted into chaos. Elena's squadron leader barked orders, but confusion ruled. The mountain terrain was blocking signals, and radar was unreliable. 2 more jets went down. The mission was unraveling in real time, and no one at the Pentagon understood how bad it had become, except Elena. Her systems flickered, alarms screaming. She dove between the cliffs, her oxygen low, her jet barely holding together. The only thing louder than the warning sirens was her heartbeat. Every second was a choice between life and death. Then, through the smoke, she saw something that made her blood freeze, a cluster of civilian vehicles hidden beneath the cover of trees near the insurgent trucks. It wasn't just a trap. It was a human shield. Any airstrike from above would have killed innocent people instantly. Elena called it in, shouting over the static, but the command center was gone. The frequency was dead. The only voice she heard was her own, echoing in the cockpit. In that moment, the easy choice would have been to retreat, to save herself and leave the ground battle to those below. But Elena knew what would happen next. An automatic airstrike was coming, programmed to launch from an unmanned drone following her lead. Those civilians would die unless she found a way to stop it. The problem was she couldn't reach the drone directly. Only her aircraft's targeting data could alter its course. So she did the unthinkable. She overrode her safety protocols, locked her own jet as the target, and began broadcasting false coordinates that would divert the strike away from the civilians and toward her. She knew it meant death. But she also knew what her father would have done. For 15 minutes, she fought to stabilize the jet, her hands raw from gripping the controls. Smoke filled the cabin. Every instrument screamed failure. Yet somehow she managed to hold her altitude just long enough to draw the drone off course. Then the screen went white. The drone detonated over the ridge, obliterating the enemy column, and her aircraft vanished from the radar. Command declared her missing, presumed dead. When the recovery teams finally reached the site 3 days later, all they found was a twisted wreck of metal scattered across a canyon floor. No remains, no flight recorder, nothing. The story ended there for most people, just another pilot lost in action. The news cycle moved on. The world forgot her name. But months later, during a high-level Pentagon review, an encrypted data file surfaced, one that the intelligence division couldn't trace to any existing system. Inside it was a single classified tape, the audio from Elena Hart's cockpit. The sound was raw, real, almost unbearable, her voice calm and steady, guiding her dying aircraft while chaos erupted all around her. Then the faint, crackling words that silenced the entire room. If anyone ever hears this, tell them I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just couldn't let them die. For a long time, no one in the room moved. Even the hardened generals, the ones who'd fought for decades, sat frozen, eyes wide, hearts heavy. That single tape, recorded by a woman they'd called just a pilot, had captured the essence of everything they had ever sworn to defend. Courage, sacrifice, and honor beyond recognition. When the story finally reached the public, the Pentagon released an official statement acknowledging her actions. But even that couldn't capture what the world felt when they heard her voice. Air bases across the country played the tape at sunset. Fighter pilots stood in silence, saluting the sky as the sun dipped below the horizon. Her name, once forgotten, was etched into the walls of the Air Force Memorial. And somewhere in the distance, an old veteran whispered, "She wasn't just a pilot. She was the reason we still believe in what we fight for." Years later, when cadets learned about her in flight school, they didn't study her as a statistic or a casualty. They studied her as a symbol of what true leadership means, the quiet kind that doesn't demand respect but earns it through unthinkable courage. And every time a young pilot took their first flight, they'd look up at the sky, knowing they were following a path carved by someone who gave everything without asking for anything in return. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Legends of History. It helps us keep stories like Captain Elena Hart's alive, stories the world should never forget. Before you go, I have one special request. Comment below what real heroism means to you. Because sometimes the greatest battles aren't fought for glory, they're fought for humanity.